Right. Good morning. I am going to give you the run through. I'll try to do this as efficiently as possible, but there's more. There's more. So let's get to it. No, that was from my phone. Let's do this. Sorry, I thought I was ready. I wasn't, but I'm going to get ready, darn it. Okay, first thing I learned was if you create a formula and you put it in a spreadsheet, you can adjust time points. So like if I adjust a duration, everything else will cascade from there. That was really helpful for me as I was thinking about the plan. So what you do basically is you build a Google Sheet and then you copy and paste it into a Google Doc. And then I can make updates. So I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to get to start, but I want all these to cascade. Anyway, I thought that was kind of cool. So the plan is up to date. I have slide numbers attached to each piece. And as you'll see in a second, I have updated the slide deck significantly. So we're going to jump over to the deck, and I'm going to go through it quickly. Okay. So let's see. First thing is we have some time points. This is what I want to do for an agenda is just kind of give them the breaks. Like, hey, we're going to stop at 10. We're going to stop at 11:20, 1:45, and be done with the day by 2:55. I'm going to very briefly share. This is my first time in 15 years not being a high school classroom teacher. Talk about 9 years as a traditional math educator, department leader, and then 6 years at a project-based high school. We swam in design thinking. We used it for the context for all the classes we taught. Every year we'd start the school year with a whole week as an entire school learning the design thinking process. 5 full school days doing that. And we're going to cram part of that experience into 5 hours with you all today. And I have a chance to be working with Gizmo this year. Budget cuts closed my school. And I get to work on stuff that I'm really excited about and help other teachers get permission and have access to these kinds of tools that have really helped my teaching career significantly. I also have some goals. I want to share what those are. And these are the goals as I think about walking in cold with you all. I've gotten to visit your school. I've met some of you very briefly. I've done some work to try to learn a little bit about your context, but I don't have a relationship with any of you. And what I am about to do with you today is something that is very challenging and I would never do with high school students. I wouldn't jump in to 5 intense hours of content with high school students that I didn't have a relationship with yet. At least not all brand new students. You know, thinking back to my experience at RA and we called it Camp Innovation, so our opening week of school. There were always kids that we knew that we could lean on and help build relationship with. It wasn't a brand new cold group because there's culture building that needs to happen. Anyway, I'm rambling, Aaron. I'll clean that up. So I want to share what my goals are. As I think about postures that I hope that you'll hold, I'm imagining building relationship with some of you to a small degree today and watching you interact with this and helping you. I'm hoping that you have an opportunity to feel some of the ways that are captured by these images. Here's another one. I'm hoping you have the experience like this today. And an experience like this. So it's really important for me to know that I believe you are already an expert. And design thinking is not one more thing. And I know that posture well as a teacher in this context. I know what it's like to just hunker down and hold your breath and say this too shall pass. I have sat through many compulsory all-staff trainings, and I've been approached by the trainer as though I am sick and in need of a doctor, or I'm not good at what I do. And I don't actually believe that about you. I don't know what you're an expert in. It's many things. But I want you to know that I believe that. And it is not my desire today to approach you from a deficit perspective, like you're broken and I need to fix you. So I'm hoping you'll hold on to that and that you'll know that I believe that about you. And I'm excited to uncover what some of your expertise is. I also hope that you're curious, that just like this dog, just turning his head that you'll be able to experience our very brief introduction to design thinking with curiosity, that it could become something that piques your interest. I've tried to design for that by giving you an authentic experience of it. And then by the end of the day, I hope that you feel ready. If you are intrigued and you feel like this has not just been one more thing, but an actual helpful set of tools that you'd like to try to learn more about by using, I hope you feel ready to do that today. So I'd like you to take a minute on your sticky note and write down a couple goals. They're yours. They're not for me. You're not going to share them with your neighbor. You're not going to share them with me, but you will revisit them a couple times today. So if you would, just write a goal or two down for yourself. And if it were me, I would write them down on the back side of a sticky note, and then I'd fold it up, and then I would put the sticky note in my pocket. There's something empowering about writing goals that are just for me and having a little moment just to myself in the midst of this large thing, and the opportunity to be really honest with myself. So I would encourage you to take this opportunity to do that. I'll give you a minute. Okay, so let's talk about design thinking. What is it? Design thinking is a human-centered approach to innovation that draws from the designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements for business success. The reason I gave you this version is because I want to center design thinking in history. Design thinking is a toolkit that came out of a design firm. And what we're going to do today is learn it and apply it to education. And there's some challenges in doing that, as is true with any tool that you take from one context and bring it into another. There are ways in which it fits and ways in which it doesn't. And hopefully our experience today provides a compelling argument about how it can help improve what we're doing already with our kids. So we're going to jump into it. And we're going to use this tool because of this confidence that we have that teachers are designers. Working today against this possibility that design thinking for you feels like just one more thing, the way in which it has a chance to not feel like that is if we can convince you that the work you're already doing is design work. And this was new learning for me as an educator. I did not think of myself as a designer. I actually had really always wanted to be creative, but felt like that was reserved for other people. Had an experience with my dad, whom I love, where I worked really hard to get straight A's my junior year of high school. And I did, except for an intro to art class where I got a B. And B in art can be abbreviated BART. And my dad decided to call me Bart for a while, thinking it was funny. It wasn't. We've been through this. He understands that that was harmful to me, and I didn't like that. Long story. But I wore that name for a long time. That I wasn't creative. I wasn't a designer. But I've always loved it. I've always loved feeling like designing my classroom and lessons and learning experiences is the opportunity for me to do this thing I'm deeply passionate about. And so when I was convinced that it actually is design work, then it allowed me to look at a toolkit that designers use for design and say, well, geez, there's some tools in there that can help me with what I'm already doing. And that's the experience we're trying to provide for you today. It's not brand new work. It is, maybe, for some of you, a different way of looking at the work you're already engaged in. So we're going to jump in. You're not an expert on design thinking yet. You're not supposed to be. And we're going to spend 90 minutes on this challenge, and you won't be an expert when we're done. But you will have moved through all 5 phases very rapidly. So we're going to do that. All right, it's time for a break. 10 minutes. Come on back. All right, take a minute. Grab your little goal sheet and take a look at it. How's it going so far? Just take 90 seconds of reflection. How are these going? These weren't your goals for you. These were my goals for you. Are any of them happening? I'm hoping we're hitting the middle one. I'm hoping there's some curiosity. And I'm hoping also the left one that you feel like you are an expert. And I'm hoping you're doing some metacognating and reflecting on, this experience you just had in the rapid cycle. How does that or does that not connect to your passions and your strengths as an educator? So just take 90 seconds and reflect just on your own. I'm not going to ask you to share out And I would ask you that you don't talk to your neighbor. Just take 90 seconds. I'll be quiet. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about why, and also how design thinking. I'm going to tell you about the why by telling you a story. This is Eunice. Blah, 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 blah. So why design thinking? Empathy. It's all about empathy, the opportunity to empathize for our user, with our user, is what gives us a chance at creating something that's novel, that's innovative, and that's more effective than what we've been doing. Looking at our work through the lens of a designer provides some of those opportunities. So that's why. It's empathy. So if you took empathy and you took Eunice's story and saw her needs, empathy provides the opportunity for something new. So I'd like you to take a minute and think about if we handed Eunice this potato peeler. Make a list in 30 seconds of the things we also gave Eunice. And I'll give you the easy one, right? And you're going to keep going. The easy one is we gave her the ability to peel potatoes again. What else did we give her? Let's take 30 seconds, jot a list. So overextending this metaphor of cooking and ingredients, components maybe for success. I'm going to try to hand you this designer's toolkit today and help you pull some tools out of it and use them and look at them and study them and try them out. And the way that it's going to work for you beyond just our time together today in this safe place, it depends on a few postures and identities and beliefs that you hold. So we're going to take some time to play with empathy a little bit more by looking at you. You're going to look at you, we're going to look at you, you're going to look at us, we're going to look at you. So let's talk a little bit about this, who you are and what you do. They're connected. Here's a funny example. There's a word cloud. I tested all this. It's going to work great. Let's talk about the mindset. So this is a tool that comes from designkit.org, and you can look at these more deeply. There's some really awesome component or companion videos that go with this. I'd recommend spending some time with that later if you're interested in diving more deeply into this. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you an opportunity to continue reflecting with the group. We just did a word cloud. We're going to ask you to reflect anonymously with the group as you do a little assessment of yourself with these particular mindsets. So here's the first one, optimism. Optimism is the thing that drives you forward. And here's an opportunity for you to share with the group. Oh, it's not working. See, that's super weird because it was totally just working for me. Yikes. I haven't had that happen to me yet. It always pops up. Okay, good. That's good. Okay, so we have these polls. I tested them on my phone. They all work great. And then we're going to do the flip your space activity, which you and I talked about yesterday. Then we're going to move to design thinking adventure and ask this question again about, okay, so if we're learning to use the designer's toolkit to think about our work as design work, there's a place where this really didn't fit for me for a long time. And I wasn't really doing the empathy, and I didn't really have time to prototype, and I really actually didn't ever test. And I didn't really ideate. I just kind of implemented. And this happens for me because I tend to view my work as just the things I need to produce to have experiences with kids. And I tend not to place value on the other work that I'm doing because the other work is more slippery. The planning work, the head work, the conversation with other teachers, the dreams I have, or those clear moments in the shower. Like, I tend not to value those as part of this process. And I was having a conversation with a friend who's works in Salmon, Idaho, and is working with teachers in design thinking. And we were talking about how common it is for teachers to feel like they don't have time to do this. They may have a positive experience with design thinking, but there's no time because the work that they have to do is time consuming. And that's true. It's just true. And so his argument was actually what we need to do is help teachers acknowledge that teaching is like building a house. And I really loved this analogy because my wife and I are trying to have a house built. Teaching is like building a house. And I found this cool time-lapse video of all the site prep and all the things that are happening. All components necessary in building a house, right? Foundation is poured. Then we're going to lay in some of this brickwork. That's awesome. We're still trying to decide what the materials are in our house. I just don't. It's been a 2-year process already. And his argument is that designing a house or building a house is like teaching. And what we tend to focus on without acknowledging that is all the building part, right? And this is what I was very guilty of, is writing quizzes and tests and picking practice sets and designing lessons and lectures and projects and experiences and getting guest speakers in and all that like product stuff that is very important. And you have experiences, learning experiences with your kids. But his argument was, what if we actually had teachers stop and acknowledge all the work they had to do before this video even started? Like if we just said, well, hold on, how much work has already gone into your teaching before you ever even started digging on the ground? I think that's where the Designer's Toolkit is really, really useful for us, is all this work we're doing with empathy, all this work we're doing to try to understand our context and our problem. This is work we're already doing. We just may not acknowledge that. And it's work that has to happen. You cannot simply walk up to a property and put a house on it. You have to do a lot of pre-planning. And so for you as an educator, you are already doing that. You have to do that. This is where design thinking really shines, is it provides an opportunity for you to engage in that part of the work in a different way. And I don't want to say intentional way or more intentional way, because that implies that you're not being intentional. It's a different way. And if your experience with it is anything like mine has been over the last 6 years, is it is a more robust way than I had before. For me, it was more intentional. And it allowed me to focus on my end user, my students, more fully. So what we're going to do is we're shifting you now to not just design thinking. We're going to keep learning design thinking, right? But we're going to actually try to do something with it besides just this little artificial experience where you redesign somebody's wallet. In order to do that, I have to hand you some tools, right? Thinking back about my goals, I need you to feel prepared. I have to translate a little bit for you. We've been using this flow, and we're going to shift to this flow. And these two things look nothing alike. This one comes from designkit.org, so just take a minute, go there. Click around, see what you can see. I want to compare these two pieces, and I've made a copy of this for you. We're going to continue doing the same work, empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test, but we're going to add some different language and different organizational structure around it. The designkit.org website, which we're going to use a ton for the rest of the day, and I think it will be the thing, if you continue forward with design thinking, it will be the first sort of foundational set of resources that you'll use to design your own solutions. Again, it's a toolkit. It's not a lesson. It's a way to maybe make a lesson. We're going to talk about inspiration, ideation, and implementation. Okay, so this is where we're going after lunch. But now it's lunchtime. All right, come back, review your goals, check mine, how we doing? How was lunch? Okay, so we're still gaining empathy right now. We're going to turn our attention to Venture High School. And I'd like you with a couple people around you to brainstorm the details related to the context in which you teach. Really, this is about Venture High School. And here's how you do it. You get one little sentence or phrase or detail on each sticky note. And you're going to write one down, and then you're going to put it on the table in front of you, or you can find a wall, get up, stand up, go somewhere. And what you do is, as you place the sticky, you very briefly tell the story attached to it, but you're taking turns. Okay, so if you need to take a minute to generate a bunch of stickies, that's fine, but they get placed one at a time, and you're sharing with your group about your context. Okay, so this is all going to happen in 5 minutes. All right, same game now with community, same game now with constraints. Okay. What were some things that came out of that? Let's take a few minutes to share with each other. All right, so I mentioned this morning I worked to get some context because design thinking is a tool for creating things, and I use design thinking to solve problems and make stuff. I have internalized it to that point. And it's a great way for me to try to understand a context. And for me to create valuable learning for you, I need your context. So here's what I tried to do to start that process. So if you would go there for me and take a look at this. I went through, and this is sort of generally my process. I chose to frame my design challenge and write some how might we's. I got some secondary research. I made a project plan. I went through some inspiration methods and questions. And I sent some to Teresa, and I got some feedback from her. I then took that feedback and I tried to break it into like chunks, related chunks. Then what I did was I took those chunks and I started using the how might we method again. And I started writing whichever ones came to mind, how might we questions that might allow me with you to start working on this problem. So this is what I'm going to have you do. I'm going to have you continue my work. I took 5 chunks out of what Teresa stated, and I want you to pick, I'm calling them problem stems. So I want you to pick one of these 5. Or, in your team, pick one that you care about more than that. Maybe there's a bigger problem that the 3 of you agree on. Problem is you only get 5 minutes for this. Okay? Oh, it's not. That's not right. That can't be right. That can't be right. Let me fix that. How might we activity? Yeah, you get 30 minutes for that. That's better. All right, you only get 30 minutes. Okay, and you're going to go through this method. Okay. So Aaron, as I get to this part, I think I might have to have them all agree on which one we're going to use. I might need to add that. I need to think through that a little bit more. Or I'll chuck voting. Maybe this, instead of voting, will be reflection. I'm not sure. I think voting is important, though, as I think about what's ahead, because I need them to frame their design challenge. And maybe this is where we just decided on the fly together, like, based on the things that they've chosen, do I need them to stay together as a large group, or do I let them frame their individual design challenge? I really could facilitate either one of these, and I might just kind of like let it play out. I don't know. So this is the next thing they're going to do, is frame their design challenge. They're going to actually go to the designkit.org site, and they're going to get that method, and they're going to do the work. I thought there was another slide for this, but I think it's gone. I may have deleted it, but I don't think we need it. I think it's fine. Okay. Boy, this is a long video. I'm going to keep going. Then we get a break. Then we're going to talk about pathfinding. And this is the way that I want them. Boy, there's a lot of text on this slide. I'll probably have it appear one at a time. I'll do that later because this is already a long video. I want them to go to designkit.org and pick an inspiration method. Okay, so they're still in their teams. And they're going to sketch the image and the method name. So each person's going to do this once for ideation and implementation and inspiration. Okay, so this is part 1. Just do this. Go grab 3 methods. Make sure there's no overlap between these things. And you're going to end up with 9 sticky notes, 3 from each section. Okay. Then you're going to arrange them in a path. And as you're working on this, you're going to think about, hey, is there a single best path? Right? Is there a right way for me to go? Are there additional methods that we need? Thinking about if we were actually going to go do these things together as a group to work on this problem. And then what sort of validators do you have? How do you know if it's working? And this is really kind of a design thinking assessment question. Like, how does design thinking itself help you answer this question? Okay, so we're going to work on that. And then we're kind of transitioning to the end here. Like, how can I be helpful to you? Thinking back about our goals, thinking back about this soup that we've made here. How can I be helpful? We're going to let this go as long as it needs to go. Then we're going to pitch PD in the lending library, and we're going to thank them, and we're going to go home. Long video.